So, class number 2 on Golden Doves. In Golden Doves, my father discusses, well, let's just read what he says in the preface. He says as follows, that just as in a Cubist painting, the same object is viewed from different angles, in this book, the tension between ideality and articulation is examined from different perspectives. It's really an important concept, and if you don't fully understand Cubism, or if you don't, fully understand Cubism, if you don't understand Cubism, at least even at a rudimentary level, it would be difficult to understand or to appreciate the beginning of the Golden Dove. So I just want to take a couple of minutes, and it really is worth it because it has to do with Talmud Torah. It will help you understand the midrashim of the Chachamim. I'm not interested in teaching art history or art form or art structure. I am interested in understanding the words of the Chachamim. And so a couple of notes on Cubism, and you'll see how that really helps in the understanding of the Chachamim. Except for Cubism started with, or one of the main figures in Cubism, I'm not sure he started it actually, it was Pablo Picasso. And if you look at one of his paintings, it's called The Guitarist. It's a painting from 1910. And in this painting, what you see, you actually don't see a guitarist. You don't see a guitar, and you don't see the person playing the guitar. And I'm going to try to show you just what the painting looks like. Okay, so I'm going to turn my camera over, and I apologize, this is definitely not high-tech, but it'll have to do. So I'm assuming that you see the painting, The Guitarist. If you look at the painting, actually you can see here the strings of the guitar, right? In different parts. But what you're really looking at, essentially, is a kind of a jigsaw puzzle, I guess I would call it. And it looks like he took a photo of a guitarist, a person playing a guitar. He cut it into pieces, and he put the pieces back together, only in the wrong order. So let me explain that. For 500 years prior to Pablo Picasso, Western art was obsessed with what's called naturalism. Naturalism is related to representing the outside world as precisely and objectively as possible. So let's go back to the purpose of the book. The purpose of the Golden Doves is to look at the tension between ideality and articulation. So you have the ideal, which is what's in your mind, and you have the articulation, which is speech. The speech reflects what's in your mind. So naturalism, that type of art, it says, okay, I see this beautiful orchard, and I will try to imitate, to articulate the orchard as precisely as possible. And that's naturalism. Just basically copy paste what it is you see in your mind. You see something in your mind and you copy paste it onto a canvas, right? And they're really good at this. And the naturalists were really good. I mean, they were able to create the illusion of 3 dimensions. And here's a problem. The problem is that reality is actually 3 dimensions. But the painting, the canvas, is 2 dimensions. So how can you articulate a 3-dimensional ideality using a 2-dimensional medium, right? So as I said, the naturalists were really good at creating the illusion of depth. But what happened by the time Picasso came around, let's say the turn of the 20th century, was that the world was becoming ruptured. The old ideals were becoming questioned and were being replaced by an uncertain intellectual foundation. Add to that the fact that quantum mechanics was being discovered, and quantum mechanics calls the very existence of an objective reality into question. So what Picasso does is he invents a new system or a new language of pictorial representation. In this new system, Cubism, instead of trying to hide the two-dimensionality of the canvas, which is what the naturalist did, Picasso puts the two-dimensionality at the very forefront of his artwork. And he uses his two-dimensionality to articulate ideality, meaning to articulate or to represent in pictorial fashion that which he wishes to represent, with full knowledge of the fact that he's transforming a three-dimensional object into a two-dimensional canvas. So here, basically, Picasso is acknowledging the tension between ideality, 3 dimensions, and articulation, 2 dimensions. He's acknowledging it. And it's precisely because he acknowledges that his artwork was so genius and indeed so effective. I mean, I'm personally got to tell you, I don't enjoy looking at these paintings. I love naturalism, but we're not talking about my personal preference, what I enjoy or don't enjoy. I may enjoy vanilla ice cream, doesn't make it healthy or desirable, or rather beneficial. It makes it desirable. So when I say that Picasso's paintings were genius, they were genius precisely because they highlighted the tension between ideality and articulation. Now, think about that painting, and what I suggest is get online, look at the painting, The Guitarist. There's many, but there's many paintings by Picasso of The Guitarist. This particular painting is The Guitarist. It was painted in 1910. And so look for The Guitarist 1910. Let me show you again the what it actually looks like, so that when you find it, you will recognize it. That's it. That's the painting I have in mind. I mean, it could be any of the paintings. It doesn't have to be that one, but I'm just happen to be talking about that one. So if you look at The Guitarist is supposedly a painting of a man holding a guitar, right? If this was a naturalist painting, you would actually see a man holding a guitar. That's what it would look like, right? And the way the naturalists generally try to portray it is they would be imagining a single viewer fixed, standing in front of the guitarist. That's the way the naturalists generally try to portray their images, right? But what Picasso does, and it's really brilliant, he has it of someone not as looking directly at the guitarist, but looking at the guitarist from different angles and from different perspectives, as if somebody is moving around the guitarist. Guys, I'm not saying that Picasso read the Midrashim or Chachamim, but this is incredible. I mean, this is like perfectly aligned with the words of Hazal. I'll bring it to you in a moment. It's in the Golden Doves, which is what makes this book so brilliant, because you can literally read it over and over and over again, and suddenly you realize, wow, so that's what he was talking about. Okay, so I'll get to that in a moment. Back to Picasso. So Picasso doesn't look at the guitarist from, again, as if though he's in the middle and he's looking straight at the guitarist front on, but rather as if though he's looking at the guitarist from different angles. In each one of these cubes, right, little boxes, let's say the painting is made out of different cubes of different shapes, circles, squares, rectangles. Each one is actually a pictorial representation of a particular perspective of the guitarist, right? So for example, if you look at the guitarist, on the top right, you'll see a head. On the left side towards the bottom, you can see the elbow. In the middle, you see the fingerboard of the guitar, right? This fits perfectly with the tapuhe zahav b'maskiot kasif that the Chachamim speak about. Let me read to you again the preface. In the same fashion, I'm reading on the Golden Doves, which is in front of me. I'm not saying it Balpe. In the same fashion, the rabbis compared Judah's speech to a revolving sphere that reflected the subject from every angle. That's Picasso, referring to Proverbs 25:11, which is Tapor in Maskiot Kasef. The rabbi said, just as a revolving sphere reflects the subject from every side, Cubism, Picasso, likewise, when Judah spoke to Joseph, his words could be seen from all sides. So it's almost like Judah's speech was linguistic cubism, in that it reflected, Judah had a particular thought, the ideality. And when Judah articulates the ideality, he is aware of the fact that this viceroy, Joseph, sitting on his throne, is not going to be able to understand the ideality. I mean, come on. How many sob stories did this person, Joseph, hear in his life? Why would he be moved by the sob story that Judah is now going to tell Joseph about Benjamin and Jacob? So being aware of that, Judah's approach is the approach of Cubism. He's trying to bring the picture, the story, from different angles. From the angle of Yosef, you, Yosef, are a magistrate. You, kichamocha kefaro, you don't have to follow the law. You can make your own decision, right? He looks at the story of the fact that Yaakov loved Binyamin. That's another angle, another segment. He looks at the fact that Benjamin lost his brother, right? So he looks at different perspectives and different snippets of reality, and he puts them together into this Cubist painting. And one day we can analyze the speech of Yehuda. So this is the amkut of the words of the Chachamim. I want to say a few more words about Cubism and about how it helped us explain the amkut of the Chachamim. Right. So, the crazy thing about Cubism is that the naturalists generally tried to take a photo of a moment in time, right? So it's all static. What's amazing about Picasso is that he didn't just take a photo of a moment in time. As we said, he tried to look at the picture from different angles, and he put together these snippets. But he took the picture as if although the object itself was moving through time. So he not only takes a pictorial representation on a two-dimensional canvas, he's trying to represent a three-dimensional world. It's actually more brilliant than that. On a two-dimensional canvas, he's trying to represent a four-dimensional world, the fourth dimension, of course, being time. That's what makes Picasso so brilliant. Now, if you look at the content of his paintings, you look at the painting, look at the guitars, you don't really see too many colors. Oh wait, well, first about time. The idea of time is so important because that is a dimension of reality. And the Chachamim emphasize the importance of time. There is no reality without time. That's why when the Eidim testify in court, the Dayanim ask the Eidim 7 introductory questions. One is about space. Where were you during the time of the Edut? The other 6 are about time. So this is brilliant. Meaning, Picasso's attempt to incorporate time into his paintings is aligned with the Torah, which says there is no reality without time. So how can you have an image of reality unless you incorporate the fourth dimension, which is time? Okay, and I want to end with the following. So if you look at Picasso's paintings, look at the guitarists again, you don't see too many colors, you don't even see too much content. And the reason for this is that Picasso is trying to focus more on structure, right? And even to a certain extent on form rather than on content, right? So it's really interesting because the Hachamim in the Gemara, and one of the, as many of you following these classes know, when we study Gemara in the Sephardic Andalusian tradition of Harambam and the Geonim, the emphasis is always based on surata dishmateta, the structure of the sugya, how the sugya is packaged and put together. And it's almost, I remember when my father would teach the sugyot, he would start with the surata dishmateta, and he wouldn't give us any of the content of the sugya at first, right? There was an almost complete focus on structure. And Picasso, in his paintings, he focuses on structure so much that sometimes you look for content and you can't find it. You look for colors and they're not really there, right? So I wanted to share this with you. I want you to think about that. Think about the Tapuhei Zahav, the Maskiot Kasef, which reflects reality from different angles, but it's a revolving sphere, so it exists in time. That's the significance of Picasso, and this brings us back to the tension between ideality. On the one hand, it's a four-dimensional world. In articulation, you have a two-dimensional canvas. This has to do with the speech of Hashem. The speech of Hashem is mavhil. You can't even assimilate it in your mind. And you capture this in a Sefer Torah, Gevil, Deyo, black ink. There's a structure. There's a form. Of course, there's a content. But in order to deal with the tension between articulation and ideality, there is first the emphasis on structure and form, the shapes of the otiyot, the sirtut of the Sefer Torah, how many lines on each page, how many pages. This is just the beginning. A lot more to come.